Hey there, fellow survival enthusiasts. Let's paint a delightful little scenario, shall we? Imagine this. You're scrolling through social media, enjoying animal memes and conspiracy theories when bam, your phone goes silent. No bars, no signal, and worse, no Insta Reels or TikTok. Sounds like the beginning of a horror movie for some, right? Well, buckle up because today we're talking about 5 ways to stay connected when cell networks go down. Stay for the full length and you might win a potato-sniffing dog. I'll explain later. Spoiler alert, your lack of communications is no longer as simple as turning it off and on again. Here we go. Way number 1, ham radios, the OG of emergency communication. First up, let's talk ham radios. These bad boys have been around since before your grandparents were arguing about Elvis versus Sinatra. Ham, or amateur radio, is the go-to for preppers and disaster junkies everywhere. Why? Because when cell towers go down, ham keeps chatting. Here's the deal. Ham radios operate on radio frequencies independent of the internet or cell networks. They're the post-apocalyptic equivalent of Facebook Messenger. Just be ready to sound like a 1940s war correspondent when you use one. 1. Stat attack. Did you know there are over 750,000 licensed ham radio operators in the US alone? 1. That's more people than live in Wyoming. 2. Scenario. Picture this, you're lost in the wilderness. 2. Your cell phone's as useful as a screen door on a submarine. 2. With a ham radio you can call for help, or just rant about the unfairness of it all to a fellow operator halfway across the country. Pro tip, get yourself a technician's license and learn the lingo. If you can say CQ without giggling, you're halfway there. Way number 2, walkie-talkies. For the kid in all of us. Remember when you were a kid and walkie-talkies were the coolest toy ever? Turns out they're still cool, and they might just save your life. While they don't have the range of ham radios, walkie-talkies work like a charm in localized situations, like keeping in touch with your crew during a blackout. As a farmer, I use mine almost daily to communicate with the crew to see which field they're in, or simple updates without having to call for such brief questions. Here's how they shine. 1. Walkie-talkies use FRS, Family Radio Service, and GMRS, General Mobile Radio Service frequencies. 1. Think of them as tiny radios with a team survival group chat feature. 2. With a typical range of 120 miles, or more if you invest in a high-end model, they're perfect for suburban and rural settings. Fun fact, in the movie Jurassic Park, walkie-talkies helped our heroes escape dinosaurs. If they're good enough for raptor encounters, they're good enough for you. Way number 3, satellite phones. Straight out of Bond movies, if ham radios and walkie-talkies are too low-tech for your tastes, enter the satellite phone, the James Bond gadget of emergency comms. Sat phones don't rely on cell towers. Instead, they connect directly to satellites orbiting Earth. Fancy, right? Here's the kicker. 1. Satellite phones work virtually anywhere on the planet, from the peak of Mount Everest to your mom's basement. 2. They're pricey though. 2. Expect to pay $500 for a handset, plus around $1 per minute of talk time. Movie moment. Remember in The Martian when Matt Damon uses a satellite communication system to tell NASA he's still alive? Sat phones are like that, minus the potato farming on Mars. Like and subscribe early for +10 farming luck and a potato-sniffing dog, just in case you end up relying on those potatoes too. Stat alert. Satellite phones saw a 40% spike in sales during the 2020 pandemic. When the world freaked out, people wanted a plan B. Scenario. Imagine you're camping in the middle of nowhere, and suddenly, someone gets bitten by a snake. Sat phone to the rescue. You can call emergency services if the world still has functioning medical systems, and still have time to debate whether the snakebite victim was being brave or just dumb. Way number 4, mesh networks. Your DIY internet, let's get geeky. Mesh networks are like a techie spider web, connecting devices directly to each other without relying on cell towers or Wi-Fi. Think of it as a secret club where all the phones in your group share notes without needing the teacher, aka the internet. Here's how it works. 1. Mesh networks use Bluetooth or Wi-Fi signals to create a local communication grid. 2. Apps like BridgeFi and FireChat make it easy to send texts within a range of a few hundred feet to a mile. Real-world example. During the 2019 Hong Kong protests, activists used mesh networks to communicate without relying on government-controlled infrastructure. Stat boost. A survey found that 85% of users believe mesh networks could replace cell networks in emergencies. Sure, that's optimism, but isn't that what survival's all about? Scenario. Picture a natural disaster. Roads are blocked, the power's out. and your group is spread across the neighborhood. Mesh networks let you text, strategize, and share memes about your predicament, all without cell service. Way number 5, smoke signals, the hipster's choice. Okay, I'm kidding. Unless you're auditioning for a caveman reboot of Mad Max, smoke signals aren't making a comeback. However, if you're desperate to be discovered, or pre-plan ahead with someone based off the idea that's how you'll communicate to locate one another, then it works. Way number 5, courier services, the medieval solution for the modern prepper. Let's talk about couriers. Yes, we're stepping back in time to a world where horses, bikes, or even a well-trained pigeon could deliver your message. When all else fails, a physical message hand-delivered by a trusted courier might be your best bet. Here's why it still works. 1. Couriers can technically operate independently of technology. 1. No internet. 1. No problem. 1. No power. 1. Still good. 2. In medieval times, kingdoms relied on couriers to carry sensitive messages across enemy lines. 2. It worked then, and it works now. Modern adaptation. In today's world, you can use bike messengers, drones, or even the neighbor's kid for a few bucks. Just make sure they don't read your note about where the emergency snacks are hidden. Movie moment. Ever see The Postman with Kevin Costner? It's all about rebuilding society through courier systems. Inspiring hope via post. Scenario. Let's say you need to alert someone 10 miles away about a power outage and your cell phone's been dead for hours. Write it down, hand it off, and hope your courier doesn't stop for a campfire coffee on the way. The dark truth. Why you should prepare now. Before we dive into some juicy stats and realities, let's get real. Cell networks aren't as invincible as we think. In 2020 alone, natural disasters disrupted telecom services for over 150 million people worldwide. Hurricanes, wildfires, and ice storms don't just destroy homes, they wipe out communication lines too. Here's the rub. 1. Cell towers need power, and during prolonged outages, backup generators can fail. 2. Cyberattacks on infrastructure are on the rise. 2. In 2021, cyberattacks targeting U.S. critical infrastructure increased by 45% year over year. 2. Think about that the next time you joke about hackers. Fun fact, during Hurricane Katrina, nearly 1,000 cell sites were knocked offline. In the aftermath, survivors depended on ham radios and satellite phones to coordinate rescues. The psychological fallout of going dark. Let's take a moment to reflect on the emotional toll of losing connectivity. It's not just about logistics, it's about staying sane. A 2017 study found that 53% of people experience anxiety after just 4 hours without their phones. Flying cars, they said. Scenario. Imagine trying to explain to your kids why they can't Snapchat their survival adventures or watch Bluey on their phone data. Or worse, realizing you're cut off from memes and streaming services. That's when the real panic sets in. Now, how will they Google how to survive when society collapses? Oh, the irony. Revisiting our tools. What to stock up on. By now, you're probably thinking, okay, I get it. Cell networks are fragile. What do I need to do? Here's a quick recap of your must-have gear and tools. 1. Ham radio. Affordable and reliable for long-distance communication. 1. Cost. 1. Around $100 for a basic setup. 2. Walkie-talkies. Perfect for short-range communication. 2. You can grab a pair for $30.50. 3. Satellite phone. If you're rolling in dough, a sat phone is your all-terrain communication beast. 4. Mesh network apps, free or low-cost solutions for texting without cell service. 5. Courier services. A little old-school ingenuity goes a long way. Now, some of these will obviously need maintenance, batteries, or charging requirements. Scavenging batteries or running solar panels or generators to charge is obviously part of the process. Movie survival moments that got it right or wrong. Let's sprinkle in some cinematic wisdom. Movies often serve as a twisted mirror of reality. Here are some examples. 1. In The Walking Dead, survivors frequently use walkie-talkies, but somehow they never seem to need a stash of batteries or recharges. 1. You will. 2. In Die Hard 4.0, a cyber-terrorist attack shuts down communication nationwide, leaving Bruce Willis to save the day. 2. Real-life equivalent? 2. Probably less dramatic, but just as chaotic. 3. Castaway taught us one key lesson. If you don't have a volleyball to talk to, you'd better have a satellite phone. Scenarios to ponder. Here's some nightmare fuel to keep you prepping. Natural disaster. A massive earthquake strikes your city. 1. Cell towers collapse like Jenga blocks, and you're left staring at your phone like it owes you money. 2. Cyberattack. Hackers disable the power grid and suddenly your 5G is a distant memory. 3. Solar flare. A massive solar storm fries electronics across the planet. 3. Fun fact, the last major one in 1859 caused telegraph systems to spark and catch fire. 3. Imagine that but with smartphones. 3. Let's hope we avoid that one for sure. Survival takeaway. Hope for the best, prepare for the worst, and trust the cell network about as much as you do the government to be there when you really need it. Final thoughts. Embrace the chaos. Surviving without cell networks isn't just about having the right gear, it's about having the right mindset. The world won't end if you can't post your survival selfies, but it might feel like it. Adapt, improvise, and keep a dark sense of humor handy. After all, isn't laughter the best survival tool? So there you have it. 5 ways to stay connected when the world decides to ghost you. Whether it's a ham radio, a walkie-talkie, or a trusty old pigeon, staying connected is all about creativity and preparation. Hit that like button, subscribe, and remember, the only thing more dangerous than losing cell service is not being ready for it. And not having your potato-sniffing dog, of course. Stay safe out there, folks. Or don't. Just make sure someone can tell your story when the lights go out.